So we made it, y'all. Today is day 10. Can you believe we've been doing this for 10 days? Okay. I actually love doing this. I love doing this for a couple of reasons. I would say the biggest thing, hi, Jess Monet. Jess Monet, you're going to have to send me an email because you have been attending each and every episode live. So you're going to have to send me an email. I would really like to get to know more about you. Thank you for supporting me during this series. But I like to do things like this just because I know not everybody can afford a consulting session. Sometimes people are still on the fence on whether they're going to get started or not. So I like to just present information. So that is something I like to do. You know, when you think of your strengths and things that you do well, I really like to present information. Hi, Ebony. Happy Friday. I'm so happy you're here as well. So I'm not going to belabor the point. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are talking about actually operating your agency. So everything that we've done, every day that we've talked about, at some point, you got to start your operations, okay? So these are some things that as you start your journey, these are some things that you want to keep in mind, okay? As you transition to licensing to actually operating. So the first is, remember, operating an agency, whether it's non-medical or medical, it requires strong leadership, compliance with regulations, and a commitment to quality care. All of those things, okay? This will help you outline operational aspects, which is going to include staffing, client management, financial oversight, and of course, we cannot forget compliance, okay? Even though some of us want to, we can't forget it. Okay, so establishing a strong operational foundation, let's talk about that. And you all have heard me say over the years, your policies and procedures will be the basis of your foundation. Okay, it will serve as the foundation for your entire agency. Okay, so with that in mind, you want to develop clear policies and procedures for caregivers and your staff. You want to implement a reliable scheduling system to manage shifts and avoid staffing gaps. Really quickly, because I know I've had this question over the last couple of weeks, and this actually fits into this point perfectly. Remember how I was talking to you about staffing, and a lot of times we're just kind of building our pipeline. We are making sure that as we launch and as we start securing clients, we actually have caregivers that are in place to take care of them. Right there in that moment, that should be part of your process. What is your availability? Especially, not only do you want to know their availability, but what are any days that they can absolutely, under no circumstances, can they not cover? And the reason why I say this is so important is because as you're bringing people on, not only are you building that pipeline, but you're building a potential schedule. Okay. So this way, as you're building your schedule and you see, okay, well, I have a couple people for the days, a couple people for midday, whatever, right? You'll be able to see your gaps. And so as you start hiring, I'm hiring for weekends. Is that something you can do? Hey, I'm hiring for evenings, weekdays. Can you do that shift? Right? That way you can have a more concise conversation with that person as you're considering them to come aboard your agency. But it's just real important to have those things identified and flushed out before you before you onboard your clients. Okay? So I hope that helps. Ensure proper record keeping and documentation for your clients and your employees. So hiring and training caregivers, we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks. You know, I guess I'm weird because I actually like this part because I like to understand people, their journeys, you know, their experience, and to hear what's led them to this field. So you want to make sure, and we talked about this before, that you're recruiting qualified caregivers who align with your agency's missions and values. Okay. And really how you can quickly see if someone is there for a job or if they're there to make a difference is to just ask them about their passion. You know, what brings them to this industry, right? Why did they choose this industry over others? and you can kind of hear that passion. I interviewed, so a lot of you know that my mom is now lives with us. And so we've had this non-ending cycle of interviewing people, right? One of the ladies that I interviewed, I asked her that. I asked her, hey, what really made you get into this industry? And she was telling me how she had a special needs daughter. And because of the lack of care that her daughter received, she took it upon herself to not only get trained to make sure she was able to care for her daughter, but to make sure that anyone that she cared for got the care that they deserved. And I thought to myself, okay, she gets it, right? She gets it. She knows what it's like to trust basically a stranger with your care, right? So just asking them, what are their values? And then do they align with yours? Okay. Conduct the background checks and verify credentials. And a lot of times, based on state regulations, this is a must anyway. Provide comprehensive training programs on safety, client care, and company policies. Okay. And do drills, do audits, run through the process to see if the people that are involved actually know what they're supposed to do. Okay. Establish a system for continuous education and performance evaluations. So this is really important, especially when it leads to, management. We talked about leadership just a moment ago. You really want to make sure that people know if they're not doing a good job or if they're not doing what they should be doing. And this will allow you to have an honest, constructive conversation with your caregiver in terms of, is this not a good fit, or maybe did we not properly train them, right? So it'll give you that, by having that conversation, that will allow you to understand what you should be doing next. Okay, client intake and management. So most states require a home care license. We already know that, to operate legally. Licensing may involve background checks, training requirements, and inspections. Oh, so you know what? This is not the right thing. So sorry about that. I was reading that and I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds like a previous slide from before. I'm so sorry. Financial management. We want to track income and expenses to maintain profitability. You want to set up efficient billing and invoicing systems, and then understand the Medicaid waiver programs and private pay options for revenue diversification. Now, the more and more that I speak to a lot of you, I actually just spoke to a young lady yesterday. And she was telling me in her state how disappointed she was with the Medicaid waiver program and how little it pays. So I love this point here. It's really, you want to have, diversification in terms of how people are paying you. And so, a lot of us hope for the private pay, right? We hope for the private pay for that person that knows that they want this care. So that money is set aside. They don't play around with it. They know to go ahead and pay, so that they continue receiving care, right? But just making sure that when you do have that intake session, that you have not only explored everything, but that you also understand how this person has paid previously, right? Because I always tell people, learning history and understanding people, like what's happened in the past, that's going to help you in the moment and moving forward. Okay, so just make sure this is not a time. I know a lot of times people don't like talking about money and you don't want to pry, but this is not prying. You are getting ready to offer a service and you want to know how that service is going to be paid. Okay, and of course, there's a way to do everything. All right. So let's talk about marketing and community engagement. You definitely want to get your agency out in that community. You want your agency's name associated with as a community trusted partner. And so you definitely want to build that online presence through a professional website, social media. You all know I shared this when we were talking about marketing our agencies last week. I shared with you someone wanting to charge me $15,000-$20,000 for a website. I just couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. And this is some years ago. So you just want to make sure that your website does what you need it to do, right? And a lot of times, these GoDaddies of the world, they really have templates. for you to be able to self-serve and really build it to where you need it to be, right? So the template helps you get started, but it's your information, it's what you're bringing to the table that helps to make it unique. So my whole point here is this is not something you're going to have to spend thousands of dollars to do. Okay, network with the healthcare providers, senior centers, community organizations, like really get out there. The people that I'm seeing from my clients that are doing well, they have aced this. They have done a good job of building collaborations and building partnerships with the people in their community. Okay. Utilize referral programs and client testimonials to grow your client base. So if you have happy clients, absolutely, you want to have those referral programs built out so that you can get that client's happiness to work for you and your agency. Okay. And don't forget the referral program is also for the employees of your agency, your caregivers. You want to have referral programs for not only potential clients, but then also for caregivers too. Okay. You want to make your people's inner circle work for you. Okay. Ensuring compliance and quality assurance. Stay updated with your state regulations. Conduct regular audits. We talked a lot about this yesterday to ensure operational efficiency and compliance. And then establish a client feedback system to continuously improve services. And remember that client feedback is not only for your clients, it's also for your employees. Because once you spend that time and effort onboarding someone, you want to make sure that this person stays with you. And so if you really start seeing a trend of how quickly a person is leaving you, how quickly people are just kind of, leaving without saying anything, it's time to understand why. And I always say if a person is willing to speak with you right before they leave and give you a 2-week notice, take advantage of that gift and talk to them and understand, hey, why are you leaving out? If it turns out it's just better pay, maybe it's a better opportunity, well then, okay, that's life, right? But if there's, some processes or they don't feel they're having enough meetings, maybe they don't feel like there's an open door policy at your agency, or maybe they feel like no one was willing to hear, some grievances that they may have. That's something that you can fix. Okay, so just really and truly, we want to make sure we have a client and caregiver feedback system so that we are continuously improving. Okay, so when we talk about being the agency of choice, it's not just for our clients, it's for our caregivers too. Okay. So you want to stay updated with state regulations and licensing requirements, conduct regular audits to ensure operational efficiency. And then, like we just talked about a moment ago, the client feedback is essential to improve your services. Okay. That is the end of our presentation. It's not only the end of our presentation, it's the end of our 2 weeks, or the end of our 2 weeks live. Ebony says, I work at a hospital now and I'm trying to come up with a pitch to maybe share my business, or would that be a conflict of interest? So I would say this, the way you have written in here, that sounds like a conflict. Okay. Now, if there's someone that you have, and you got to be careful because you're currently employed there. If there's someone that you can trust, that you can have a side conversation with, so that way, instead of coming over as a pitch, it's really, hey, I'm just trying to make sure I'm in compliance. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes, but I really have this that I'm trying to move forward. What are your suggestions? That way you're bringing that person in versus coming in with that sales. And Ebony, reach out to me on the side. We can role play that. Okay. Because I understand what you're saying. It's like, man, you want to take advantage of those resources that you have in front of you, but you don't want to compromise your current position. I get it. Okay. Good stuff. Good question. So if you have not already, make sure you like the video. I'll go ahead and upload this in a couple of moments. So that way you all can see the presentation with this. Do not forget that I have launched a community And so actually, well, I don't have it. So I'll make sure it's posted in, it's included in the video description when the video is posted. But I want to leave you all with this. I know that the licensing process is hard, and I know running an agency is also hard. However, it is also very rewarding. It feels good when you're able to launch this business that you feel you were created to run. Okay. So take a look at the last 2 days, review the information, reach out to me if you need assistance, join my community so we can all support each other and create our own network of support, right? And really just do something. Just do something every day to move you closer to your goal. Okay. So that is all that I have for you all today. Thank you so much. I will definitely be releasing another video next week, so look out for that about next Wednesday or Thursday. All right, but that is all I have for you all today. So stay blessed.